Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business. I'm Roy. We are the podcast that we bring you great guests from a wide variety of disciplines to help you in your business. I know as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, small businesses, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So this is a great opportunity to learn about new and exciting things, and not only that, but bring in some experts so that if you do recognize that you have an issue, we can give you a place to go, and find help. Today, we are fortunate enough to have Palalas with us. He is the VP of Strategic Optimization at Secret Sauce Media, where he oversees both paid and organic social teams. During his time in the marketing space, he has developed and implemented successful marketing strategies to drive success for over 500 of the world's top brands and creators. Cross, thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us. How's everything going for you today?
Things are going well. Very
Good.
excited and glad to be here.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
Good, yeah. We can never get enough of marketing and the digital space for sure. It is it's an ever changing world, and just about the time that you think let me say this for lay people like me, this is not my this is not what I do every day. About the time I get caught up on it, I talk to experts like yourself and realize that I'm probably about 2 or 3 steps behind. So that's kind of what we're gonna get in today. Is so what are some good strategies, some good things that people can think about to help get their message out there and advertise and market for their business?
Awesome. All sounds good. I know marketing is something that it's changing rapidly 24/7, especially when you look at digital marketing. It's
Right.
Ever changing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and with social media, and just kind of going to throw this out there to begin with, because I got flooded with the guy that was sending me a bunch of ads about getting more likes on social media, Instagram in particular. And you know what I think about, I guess my opinion on that is that some of the likes and chatter, it's vanity if they are not people who could be a consumer of your product. So I think we have to be sure and distinguish that factor, because a lot of people that I know get sucked into paying these guys this money, and then all of a sudden, they've got a bunch of followers from all around the world, but they're not people who would actually ever be their clients.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just feel like especially the social media, just be careful of who you're dealing. Make sure they're reputable and they can give you a good plan. But
people will tell you anything when it comes to social media. I've had people who I talk to, and they have clients spending thousands of dollars for like campaigns on Facebook, and I'm like, why? They're like, well, they want to make sure that people are engaging, and I was like, show me these campaigns, because if you're spending that much on engagement, are you really getting people who are going to use your service, or are you just getting likes for the sake of having likes?
Right. Yeah, and likes I don't know. I think you'd be hard pressed to take likes to the to the phone company and see if you could pay your bill with them or something like that. So, yeah, we just need to make sure our strategy. So what is and the other thing, well, let me ask you this, not to say it. Let me ask this question. Is so, there are platforms like Google, Bing, a lot of places, what I would call more on the internet side, where people may be searching through, not necessarily a social media platform such as a Facebook or Instagram. So does it depend on the business that you're in, kind of how much effort you want to put into either one? Is it usually a pretty good mix of 50-50, or what is your take on that?
I'd say it really varies. So something like e-commerce, for example, something where social media is ideal, especially if you've got very low cost products and it's high impulse.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the awareness and have that bottom funnel in there and still drive, really high ROAs.
Okay.
Whereas something, for example, little bit more lead gen related. I know I've been dealing a lot with clients who are doing solar panels recently.
Yeah.
For them, it's, I'd say, about 60%, 70% on the Google side, because it's more search based to start that relationship than it is finding it on social.
Yeah.
And then what we do is once they've gone to the site and they've started clicking around, we then retarget them on social because we know that there's an interest there.
Okay.
And it's just about staying top of mind, getting in there, and they're more likely to then start converting that lead.
Okay.
So it's definitely a very healthy mixture.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned the funnel. If you don't mind, can you just go over a sales funnel for any listeners that may not actually understand the components and the importance of that?
Yeah, so funnels are really, really great. There's all different kinds, but the basic kind of sales funnel that I usually use is a 3-tiered system. So at the top, you have that awareness stage. This is when people are getting to know who you are. So these are people who had no clue about you. Maybe they see your social media video. Maybe they see your ad for the first time. Okay, now I know, I'm aware of you. Then you've got that consideration stage. So this is where maybe they fill out a lead form. Maybe they're, just kind of viewing your content a little bit more, getting to really contemplate on making that purchase decision. And then at the bottom, you have that conversion. So you've got that person who's handing you money for the job or for the product.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned a good point earlier about lower cost items versus, I guess, higher cost services and products. And typically, I think that funnel kind of collapses. If we're talking, and I'm going to speak for myself for this, is that, if I see something I kind of like, it's $3, $4, $5, I don't have to do a lot of thinking about that. I'm going to click it, get it. If it works out, that's good. If it doesn't, it's not that big of a deal. You can throw it away and know not to buy it again. But when you're talking about a $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 item or service, I think that's where that consideration point becomes much more important, is that I need to know who Cross is before I write you a $10,000 check, or before, the other thing that we don't think enough about, I think too, is our brand, is that we need to build that relationship where I have the trust in you, because, if I turn my campaign over to you, I've basically turned my brand, my reputation, and I need to make sure that we are both aligned in that messaging as well. So it's important to, and I will ask this question to you as the person that carries that out. Having that a long conversation before that you actually make a client. It's important for both sides, because I need to be I need to be confident in your messaging, what tactics, what you're going to do. But you also need to be confident in me, because, your reputation is on the line. If I've got a crummy product or service, if I'm ripping people off, that gives you a black eye too. So I think that conversation needs to be had for both sides of that.
Exactly. Definitely a conversation needs to be had. Another big one is expectation. So a lot of people hear social media marketing. You hear all the gurus doing e-commerce sites who are probably selling those low cost products. Right. And, they've got 20, 30x ROA, and they're spending, very low budgets.
Right.
And then somebody who's got a $50,000 service they're trying to sell expects to go online, spend $100 and have 20 clients tomorrow.
Right.
And
yeah.
A $50,000 product is a lot of money, or even a service. So right. I'm going to have a much longer time that I'm thinking about this. So just putting one ad in front of me at a low cost isn't necessarily going to have me convert like this. You really got to look at how much are you looking to spend in the long run, rather than putting up a little bit of money and hoping that everybody just flocks to you.
Right. Yeah, and I think the other point of that, it's who you reach with that ad, because, the low cost items, you may reach that consumer, but let's say it's that $50,000 service. I am probably not, my messaging is probably not reaching the guy who is going to make that final decision. In my experience, you reach a lower level person who's like, hey, this is good. They kind of run it up the chain to get that interest. Is that a fair assessment of how that usually works?
Exactly. Like even me, I was looking at different services for bringing in new hires at our company, so different hiring agencies and stuff like that. And then I started getting served ads and stuff, but I'm not the one who's making the decisions on who we're partnering with. So I'm just saying, hey, this is a company that seems really good. They came across me on Facebook. Here's an ad. Take a look, see what you can do with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So the old agrarian example, it could not be more truer. I think the higher you work your way up, the price point is you have to sow, and then you have to cultivate before you can reap. And I think that we've missed that a lot in in our instantaneous society. You know, everybody gets instant gratification. I want to, like you said, I want to put an ad out there, and then I'm just sitting here waiting by my phone. I hit the go button on my ad 5 minutes ago, and now I'm waiting for my phone to ring. Like I said, the lower price points, when you have a buy button, you probably get some generation immediately. But that the higher price points, I think there's going to be the wider that cultivation point is going to be wider, and it's going to take more work, because you have a lot of people. Not only do I need to convince you that you need to take me up to your superiors, but then you have to start working on them. And the other thing I think that we forget is, okay, I'm a sales guy. I just pushed out this ad or this email, and I think Cross is sitting at his desk looking at his screen, just waiting for my message to come across so he can jump into action and buy. And I think we have to think about, our buyers are very, very busy people. Their schedules are crammed. And so, again, that gets back to maybe something more on the order of a drip campaign to stay in front of them. Let me say that twofold. Number one, they're busy, and even if they want to buy right this minute, I think that it may take some time for them to get our message, sink in, have time to act. But the other thing is, you may not need what I'm selling right now. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a customer. So can you talk to us a little bit about, maybe the kind of a smaller drip campaign where we're not like just unloading a big message on everybody, kind of a data dump, but we're more just kind of dribbling that, kind of keep our name in front of people?
Yeah, so this is something that's really, really important, especially when you look at things that are higher ticket items or long-term purchases. I'll use myself as an example. My purchase journey for a car has been about the last 3 months so far. I still haven't made the purchase. And there's one local dealership that has really stayed top of mind for me. And I'm 90% sure when I'm ready to make the purchase in a few weeks that will be where I go.
Right.
And the entire time, I haven't gotten one sales message through my Facebook. It hasn't said, hey, buy this now. We got this big deal.
Wow.
Slowly, at first, I started getting, some ads based on the cars I like, just going over. They were videos doing like inside, outside tour of the car.
Right.
This is what you can expect. That I really enjoyed, because now I'm getting to know not just the brand, but the salesperson. So I feel like I've got almost kind of a connection there with them.
Yeah.
And two, I'm getting all the information I need on the car without having to go through and read, which always is good to me. The more time I can save not having to read about something, the more I'm willing to go there.
Right.
And then as time went on, I started to see some more stuff about just like culture there. So there was one, just the sales guy talking about, what you can expect in terms of the relationship. Not, if you buy a car, we're going to save you a ton of money, but you know what? So when you come in, we've got this nice area, we're going to sit, we're going to talk, find out, what's best for you. Because I may want a $70,000 truck right now, but reality is, A, is my budget going to afford a $70,000 truck? And B, do I really need that truck?
Right.
I can probably get, a much cheaper option that's better suited for me. And it was really cool to see that somebody was willing to tell you that, because if I went on to most lots and said, hey, I want that expensive truck, they're just going to give it to me. So to have somebody really flip that on its head was really a cool wake-up call. And then since then, it's just been, minor ads to keep their name top of funnel or top of mind. And slowly, now every time I think about the fact that I need to go get a new car, I'm like, oh, shoot, I need to go see, it ends up being, I forget the name of it, it's a local Dodge dealership here.
Yeah.
And they come to mind constantly because they're just always slowly giving me some information while never really asking for that big purchase.
Yeah, and that gets back to our initial we talked about the conversation between somebody doing the work, but it also goes between us and our customers. We have to have that conversation because, unfortunately, in the past, if you walked onto the lot and said, "I'd like to look at the 70,000 one," I'm gonna be like, "Actually, we've got a 90,000 one over here that I'm gonna try to put you onto." We don't. It's selfish, but we're always, I guess we think that this is going to be the last sale that we ever make. And so we always try to push somebody up instead of thinking about, I want to make this customer for life. So what do you need? The question, and I'm just kind of using your example, but what are you going to use this for? Do you really need that? Would this 40,000 one suffice? Because, trying to do the right thing for your customer. And it's just like in my business, I don't want to sell somebody a bunch of stuff that they may or may not need. I would rather try to give them what they need, what they want, because I want them to come back. I want them to feel that I'm honest. I don't want them to walk away at some point and say, "Wow, I just got ripped off because I got sold all this stuff." I may have done what I said I was going to do, but it was like stuff that somebody didn't really need. So again, having that conversation to try to determine what are the needs of your client. The other thing you bring up that's kind of another soapbox of mine is the way that we follow up. And if I was to ever get your email, a lot of times you get these like, okay, you came in, you looked at my vehicle, like, "Hey, Cross, you came in on last Tuesday night, looked at this truck. Are you ready yet? Can you come in, sign the papers?" Instead, and maybe it has to do with product, but I look at it that in my business especially, I want to educate you and say more something on the order of, "Hey, I know you came in last Thursday talking about this. Here's some more information, not necessarily about me, my company, but it could be, a great article." So, what I've done before is take an article that I read, pull out 4 bullet points and say, "Hey, Cross, I just saw this 4 great bullet points on this vehicle that you're looking at buying. Just leave it at that." We do, I think as salespeople, we have to walk the line because we have to ask for the sale. I mean, at some point I've got to say, "Cross, let's get this done." But on the other hand, it can't be, "Cross, nice to meet you. Here's the truck. Let's get this deal done." I mean, that's where we take out that mental section, and that we need to take the time to really cultivate this relationship. Like you said too, you mentioned build trust. You need to trust me that we're doing the right thing. It's so important, but I think that's a big part of what we skip nowadays. I just want to send you an email, and then I want you to email me back saying, "Let's buy this. Let's get this thing done." And it just, I don't know, what are the current stats on touches before somebody actually makes a purchase?
Yeah, it's crazy. And depending on who you ask and how their funnel's set up, it's very drastically different. But from what I've seen, I love to use the Facebook attribution tool just because it gives me a sense I can hook up all my different ad platforms to it and aggregate everyone's information.
Okay.
And it's crazy. You really get to see, I'll use dealerships as an example. Dealerships has been an interesting one because I've seen that someone will start off on their mobile, probably just looking up because they're like, "Shoot, I need a new car." They end up on the site, they touch a little bit, then they go on their desktop usually, and I've noticed that that's where we start to see a little bit more consideration-based stuff going on. They're really diving into the information, they're booking consultations, requesting free quotes, and then we'll see it'll move to mobile again, where a lot of touch points happen. That's usually their Google ads, their Facebook, and other types of ads going on and coming back. So it really is multi-platform, multi-touch. And I wouldn't even put a number on it. I'd just say it's long journeys these days, and so many different ways.
Yeah, I think, again, the higher the price point, probably the more touches that we're going to have and the more patience that we need to have to educate our customers. Because obviously, if it's a high-ticket item, it's probably more complex than, the gadget on somebody's website for $3 or $5. So we have to educate. And which kind of leads us to the point of price versus value. And, I'm in the service business. I'm huge in value because I don't ever want to be a price leader. I mean, because somebody will always beat you on price. So, what's the
Yeah.
what is the advantages to kind of sticking to that value proposition versus, oh, I'm just the lowest, or going for the price.
Exactly. Value is a big thing. And something else you mentioned a little while ago was giving information, which is two really big things. So I was recently helping a business who does, they sell trailers, but what they do during the winter is they will go through and like winterize your trailer for
Okay.
so that when you come back, it's all good. They drain all the pipes, all that fun stuff. And their ad every year for like the last 30 years has just been a photo that says, this is, our name, this is what we're doing. So we're going to winterize your trailer, and here's the price. And I said, how much does that actually work? And they had really low ROAs. If anything, an ad would bring in maybe 6 customers, and they were pumping it with thousands of dollars. And I said, okay, let's take one video of you just telling people how to winterize it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Give them all the information up front so that they can do it. And at the end, say, you know what, and if you're, rushed on time, or, you just don't want to do it, here's our number, give us a call, and we'll gladly come out and do it. And automatically they saw an increase like crazy, and all they spent was $100 on the video because they didn't trust me at first. They're like, we'll see how this goes. They're just going to do it themselves.
Right.
And I was like, I promise you, if you tell them how to do it, they'll understand that you know your stuff, and they'll be much more willing than if they just saw, hey, we do this, here's the price. And since then, people have a lot more trust for them. They also noticed that people who were winterizing with them from this video were much more likely to convert on new trailers and stuff too, because they got this confidence in you, because you weren't trying to sell them at the start. You were giving them information and providing them with the tools that they need.
Yeah, that's similar to, I read this in a book years ago, but this one guy had this marketing plan. And so it was a jewelry store, and what they had done some analysis and figured that they had like a 50% conversion of making first-time buyers long-time customers. So if you bought something for them, 50% chance you're coming back to buy something else. So what he did, he went out to professionals, doctors, lawyers, and he devised a campaign that said, okay, as being, the doctor's position was, we want to thank you for being our customer. Jewelry company said, we will provide, what the doctor said, we have worked out this deal with XYZ Jewelry to give you 50% off your first purchase. And so then it was win-win, because the professional sent them out to their customers. Customers are thinking, wow, this guy really went the extra mile for us to get this discount. We get a 50% discount. But the jewelry store is thinking, even if I give away my first sale, I know that 50% of these people will come back and buy something else. So, we have to kind of think outside the box at interesting concepts like that. And I think, like you said, number one, this trailer company, they showed people they knew, but also if there were different things that they were doing above the competition, they kind of highlighted, we go the extra mile for you as the customer. And then the other thing, it's like with me, I see that and I'm like, oh, I thought it was just turning a tap to drain the water. I didn't know I had to do all of these things. So now it's like, I don't have time to do that, or I'd rather take it to the expert and just let them handle it.
Exactly. And it's really cool. I love working with jewelry companies because I've learned that they can be really unique in how they do stuff. So a lot of people just think, it always comes back to price. And so jewelry a lot of the time will just like, okay, we're having a big 50% off sale today. And one of the best campaigns I've run for a jewelry store, instead of giving any kind of discount, what they did was if you came in and purchased over $1,000 jewelry, you would get what came to about $100, $120 cleaning kit for your jewelry with all the products you need to be able to really shine it up and make it sparkle like new. And they had a ton of purchases because people really wanted that for the long run. And then what they also saw is people didn't then expect something the next time they came back, because the second you give someone a discount, people start to expect discounts. I know there's certain restaurants I go to because I know they always have a discount, and if I ever went there and they didn't have a discount, I might just leave and go find another restaurant that had it.
You're right.
Whereas if you give someone something for free, they're not going to always expect. Like, I wasn't going to go back there if they gave me a free dessert and be like, okay, next time I go, they're going to give me a free dessert again. And it's really interesting that that's how it works. Like, if you start discounting, it's just expected. But if you give someone a little gift, it goes a long way, and they don't always expect it.
Yeah, and people love those free gifts. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how small they are, but people love to feel like they're getting something, for being your customer. So, how do we integrate our emails? So, I get somebody to sign up, I get their email. So, what is a good plan to time these? How often do we want to send them out? Things like that.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you something different on this one. This is something where I usually say, based on just even personal preference, I hate when I get emails weekly or daily. Like, there's one guy in my inbox right now, I just need to unsubscribe from him, but I don't read anything because daily he sends me an email.
Right.
And it just drives me crazy. Right. Nobody's got the time to read that much content. Nobody wants to see you that much.
Right.
I've always said bi-weekly or monthly is usually the best when it comes to emails newsletter, especially if you want to have a high open rate. Because the more you get in people's face, the more kind of tiring it gets, especially on email.
Right. Yeah, and depending upon, kind of what stage you're in, you bring up a good point about not looking at emails. And I know, I'm still kind of the old-fashioned that look at a lot of mine. I'm like you, I have those same people every day I just get rid of. But it's another part of our conversation with our trying to build this relationship is what is the best way for me to contact you? How do you like to be contacted? And let your buyer tell you, because you will be surprised. Buyers mostly expect that they're going to be contacted. Very few are naive enough to think they're going to walk in somewhere and you're going to give them, you're going to try to sell them they don't buy and that you're not going to follow up in some way. So, if they say, I don't want anything, then you have to respect that. Don't follow up. But a lot of times they will gladly give you an email, or maybe they want a text or something like that. So just be sure and ask that question.
100%. And it's funny what you'll learn too. For example, I was working with a business in Toronto, Ontario. There's a lot of universities, a lot of colleges, and so they have a lot of international students. And I was working with a business who asked that question. They're like, what's the best way to contact you and to keep communications up? And their number one response was WhatsApp, because a lot of them were international students.
Yeah.
And it was something that they'd never even thought of. They were like, okay, we got email, social media, we've covered all our bases. And they were like, no, if you WhatsApp me, that's the best way, because I'm on there talking to my family. I use it for even my communications out here, because they don't need to pay for mobile service. They can use Wi-Fi. And it was really awesome for them. And then WhatsApp's also kind of nice because it's owned by Facebook. So there's a lot of integration there that if you want to advertise through it still, you still have that ability.
Yeah, I'll have to admit I'm a slow adopter. I haven't made it around to WhatsApp yet. I can barely work my phone and my email, so I'm trying not to add anything right now. But yeah, that's a good point. That we just never know, and we want to reach people where they are. One other thing, kind of while we're talking about messaging, is the importance of being honest, truthful. Because the reason I thought of this, I've got a guy that started texting me. They, it's that time of window when we sign up for new health insurance at the end of the year. And so I had a guy that called me from a faraway city where I knew where he was and said, hey, I'm your insurance health and care representative. And then I started getting all these texts from his office like, hey, I work for this guy and we're your new representative. And they weren't. I mean, all because, I know who my representative is and it's not them. So, I just think instead of tricking somebody, because that's all, I mean, you may trick me into calling you, but I'm just going to be mad. I think your chances of turning somebody very slim. But I guess, it's predatory. Maybe they just try to get unsuspecting people, but I think that we really have to look at our messaging, be honest, be transparent, because we want to reach people who need our product, would maybe want to buy our product. we don't want to be just hassling people just because we have their email.
Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned I just had recently on LinkedIn. So I'm VP at a big media agency. And so most of the roles that I need are marketing related roles.
Yeah.
And I put up a post just saying, hey, we're hiring. Like, let me know if you want an interview or if you have a resume, and I'll pass it along. I had this guy send him his resume. He's like, yeah, I'd really like to talk. And I took a look at his LinkedIn before we hopped on that call. So I shouldn't even have accepted it. But I saw that he had like a small agency. I thought maybe he just wants to move over.
Yeah.
And I got him on the phone for what was supposed to be an interview. And for an hour, he tried to sell me on why I should outsource the work to him. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
I was like, now you've put a really sour taste in my mouth.
Right.
And all I'm going to do is anytime somebody asks about you or I see you on social, is I'm going to badmouth because
right.
I have this. You tricked me. Like, I didn't want to get sold
right.
by you. You thought this was an interview.
Right. Yeah, and well, I'm glad you bring that up to the LinkedIn component, because I think LinkedIn it's well, depending on what you sell, it's a good platform to reach out to other professionals, especially if you have a service.
Yeah.
But again, I think that there's an etiquette that we have to follow, and it's like I guess what they call the open source or whatever, where I will accept anybody's request. Yeah. I'm not, I want to build my network because I feel like that, I can refer people out to things that I don't do. So I always love having a big network of other providers or other professionals. But what I dislike is that sometimes, once you join somebody, then all of a sudden you get that marketing email right back on top, instead of trying to build a relationship or give me time to see really who you are, what you do. And then also it's for something that's totally nothing that I would ever need or use. And so, I realize some of that is probably part of getting caught up in a wider net, but can you kind of speak to using LinkedIn as a marketing platform?
Yeah, I really love LinkedIn. So if you're trying to build awareness, the two best platforms right now, because of the lack of content on them compared to things like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, is TikTok and LinkedIn. Their algorithms are so nice, and the amount of content is so little compared to these other platforms that you can put out one post and just blow up. That's all it really takes. So I really recommend being on these types of platforms if they fit you. And keeping things on LinkedIn professional based, but also understanding that it's not a sales tool at the end of the day. So my biggest pet peeve as a consumer or a viewer on LinkedIn is when someone sends me a connection request and their first message is a sales message.
Right.
It's the easiest way to get deleted from my network is to send me that as your first message.
Right.
And I always say, treat it as a little bit as social media. So you've got your posting, giving out content. And then the sales funnel, think of it, or on the message side, think of it as in-person sales. You wouldn't come out to me and be like, hey, I've got a product for you. You should buy it. You would try to butter me up at least. Like You'd be like, hey, this is what you do. Awesome. This is what I do. Maybe at the end, you give me a business card, say I'll also like reach out to you.
Yeah.
And then maybe a week later, try to sell me.
Yeah.
But don't just reach out and expect to get sales, because it just makes I've never heard somebody who enjoys getting outreach for sales in the first message.
And you bring up that's a good analogy, is that when, if we were to meet in person, we wouldn't shake hands and I'm like, here's an invoice if you'll just go ahead and, sign up for this. I mean, and I guess that we feel social media is at some distance that, people think that they can do anything and get away with it, but we really have to kind of think of it as that in-person meeting, and what would we do? How would we do that? We want to learn a little bit more, because again, you have to ask the question as the salesperson, what are your needs? And I would rather have somebody just ask me, what are your needs? I can tell them I don't have any. And also, we should not get upset if we send out a message and we don't get a response from somebody, because, we're intruding on their time, and time is important for all of us. So just like myself, I mean, I may get 50 of those LinkedIn messages a day. I mean, if I just took 5 minutes for each one of those, if you can you can multiply that and see how much time it would burn up to try to respond to everyone. So also patience that, if people aren't interested, we have to move on. There's actually a good book somewhere about called Getting to Know. And, sometimes getting to know, it at least lets me know you're not interested. We can move on and not waste any more time there. So just be kind and be responsible even on LinkedIn. It's very, very important. And
it's funny that you said time too, and like people are busy. So another thing I see on LinkedIn all the time is even if I am looking at getting someone's service, is they'll send me a message, I'll read it, but I'm also working throughout the day.
Right.
So I'll come back to it when I have time, and if I don't message someone back right away, I'll normally see 20 minutes later get another message like, hey, are you still there? Like, limited time. And I'm like, now you're just bothering me. At least give me 24 hours. Like, I'll get to you.
Right.
I'm not just going to ghost you on this.
Yeah.
And I understand you need to reach out back at some point.
Yeah.
But give it some time. Don't just like harass people.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to push away that skill. You're doing the opposite of what you think you're doing.
Yeah, because we always need to keep in mind that even if you don't buy today, it doesn't mean that you may not need my product or service in the future. So we always have to protect those relationships. The other thing that you mentioned that I'm so out of touch with TikTok. And tell me how a professional or even professional services or somebody with a product would use that, because I'm going to be honest and say the only thing I thought it was like a dance platform of some kind. So
definitely. So I love brands who can use TikTok very well. There were some at the beginning who came out and they would just show their representatives dancing. But for example, Starbucks did this a lot at the beginning. I saw a lot of like local Starbucks around here who would just have their like baristas dance to songs, and it doesn't make me want to come in anymore. It doesn't make me want a Starbucks coffee. They were just trying to go with the trend.
Right.
But then there were people who used it in a very meaningful way. There's someone I've been looking at purchasing. He makes custom metal art, and what he does, all his videos are just him showing you how he does it. Like he's giving away all his secrets. He just builds it in front of you in a minute-long video, so he speeds it up.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, to watch. It's nice content if you don't want to purchase. Yeah. And those who are looking, it was really cool to see the dedication he puts into the work. He's not trying to sell me on it. Again, he's just building it and showing me his work. Yeah. But now I've gotten value out of the content. It's meaningful. It's not just people dancing. And then, in the comments, he usually puts a link so that if you want to purchase, you can then go check it out, or you can message him.
And I know that TikTok had a little bit of a scrape with the in the U.S. a few months ago, and my understanding is they've got all that worked out, so it is going to be a sustainable platform in the foreseeable future going forward. So we shouldn't be scared to spend some time and money over there, correct?
Definitely. I don't see it going away anytime soon. What I would say is I definitely prefer to put my paid media on other sources. The reason for that is it's really hard when things are so quick. Like TikTok's very short form content. The longest thing you've got is a minute there. So attention spans really flare up, and it's really easy to just skip ads on TikTok too. You just got to keep scrolling. So my paid media, I definitely prefer to focus on larger platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, where there's a little bit more longer format to it. But I definitely feel like if you're looking at organic social, TikTok's a great way to do it because, like I said, there's not a lot of content on the platform yet compared to big platforms. Okay. And the algorithm's really unique in terms of, instead of prioritizing likes, views, and engagement on it, people who have no followers can blow up overnight because it's just the content is good. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the another value of hiring a professional like yourself is that you have more in-depth knowledge of all these, because what the other thing I was going to lead up to was that we really need to research the platforms and the audience that we will reach there, because I would just suspect that TikTok is going to be a younger audience versus if I have a professional service where I'm trying to market to businesses. I doubt many of them reside are going to be there picking up my ads, where that would be more of a LinkedIn. Whereas if you're looking at probably a middle-aged to older consumer with a smaller dollar item, that may be, putting your money into Facebook, different things like that.
Yeah. And it's funny how quick things change. So I'm still only 22 right now, and I'm heavily on the Facebook platform, have been for years, because that was really the first social media for me.
Right.
And I was talking to a family friend who's got a kid who's 19, so only a couple of years younger than me, doesn't have a Facebook, doesn't have an Instagram. They're only on things like YouTube and TikTok.
Right. Yeah, and we've got one of those too, that she's 26, 27, that no Facebook account. And so it's funny that you say that. Maybe it's kind of making a resurgence, because it seemed like there was a group and I always kind of accuse the kids of, well, y'all are getting off of Facebook because your parents and grandparents are on there, so you got to move off and find something different. But maybe there's a group coming back over there. So yeah, I think those are important points to make, is that there's a lot of great avenues out there, but you just have to know where your audience is going to reside for your product, service, price point, things like that. So if you're doing paid, you can definitely do where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, for sure.
Exactly. And one thing I've got to say is pixels are so important, especially that Facebook pixel. I love the Facebook pixel. It's my best friend, because as much as I like my Google ads, at the end of the day, all someone has to do is clear their cache, and all that information goes away, and I've got to rebuild that retargeting audience. Whereas I found retargeting on Facebook and Instagram is so nice because it's people-based. So it's very cross-device, because my laptop, my phone, my TV even all have the exact same Facebook profiles hooked up to them. So no matter where I go, I'm getting those retargeting ads through the pixels. And the best part about it is, yes, you can remove your data from a pixel, but it's very hard. There are a few people who can tell you how to go on Facebook and check off the right box so that you're not getting those retargeting ads. It's not as simple as just saying, clear my history.
Right. Okay. Well, Cross, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. You've given us a lot of great information to think about. And one thing I'd like to ask is, what is a tool that you use, either a tool or a habit, a ritual, something you do every day that you couldn't do without either your business or personal life?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me when it comes to business is stepping back and, like we said, really thinking about our audience. So I've always been addicted to, I forget the movie. It was I think it's called Think Like a Woman or something like that. It was an old movie where he's in marketing and he starts to think like a woman. He puts on her clothing and stuff like that. And he gets in character, and I fully believe that that's a great thing to do. I will sit there and just pretend I'm the consumer to really understand what is their thought process, where are they going to go, and I think the more you can get into who your consumer are, the better you're really going to do in business.
Yeah, not to keep going, we could probably talk for hours and hours, but I think that's it's a good point to make, is that even if you have an existing business or product, you always need to sit down and, kind of design your avatar of your customer. Who is it? And it changes. Yeah. So, it's something you need to revisit, but these are good questions. Who is it? Where do they, again, where do they reside, so I can know where to target them? But, what are their buying habits? I talked to a gentleman not long ago that, they were doing a bunch of YouTube ads. It was a karate studio, so they were doing these YouTube ads. They were reaching kids, but unfortunately the kids weren't the one that had the buying power to go to the studio and do this. But he said, after about 2 weeks, a month, the kids actually kind of nagged the parents enough to take them in. And so it ended up being successful. It was just a little bit of delay. And so, but a good strategy is that, if we can get the kids interested, sometimes they can convince too. So really sit down and think about, who's your customer, who's got the buying power, how they act, and revisit that every 6 months, because things change. We're always in flux. So Well, tell us, number one, who is your client? What can you do for them? And then how they can reach out and get a hold of you.
Yeah, so I've actually been doing a lot more consulting on my own outside Secret Sauce lately for brands, because Secret Sauce is more geared towards content creators. So I deal a lot with more local, small, medium-sized businesses. Still working on my new website, so that's under construction. But if you go on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anything, my handle is always the same. It's just Cross Palalas, CrossPalalas. Definitely send me a message, and we can always talk about even just conversational what you can do to improve your business, and then we can always talk about services later.
Okay, great. Well, again, thanks a lot for taking time out of your day to be here. It's been a great conversation. I look forward to having you back soon, and you can tell us, kind of update us and tell us what's going on.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time.
You bet. You bet. All right. Well, thanks again for listening. Again, this is the Business of Business podcast. I'm Roy. You can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast. We have a player so you can listen to, share with your friends so they can listen to this episode and others. We're also on all the major platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify. If we're not on one that you like, please reach out. I'll be glad to get us on there. Also, we do post the videos of these episodes on YouTube, so you can go over there and check us out as well. Until next time, I'm Roy. Take care of yourself.